Hi and welcome to Online Appliance Tech. Today we're working on a side-by-side KitchenAid refrigerator where the fresh food side is reading between 45 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. A lot of times this issue is caused by a defrost problem. However, this fresh food side has its own evaporator, and if you just pull the bottom drawer out and look at the bottom, you'll see ice build up at the bottom. In this case, we already diagnosed his fridge and removed the ice, but we did come back to replace the thermistor. So once you remove all the shelves, take your quarter bit and remove your right and your left hand screw. This will remove the panel that covers the evaporator. Make sure you remove or let the unit defrost before you pull this off. You do not want to yank on the evaporator. Vice versa, this cover here is styrofoam, so you definitely want to make sure it's defrosted before you yank on it. If you yank on this while it's frozen up, you will A, pull on the evaporator, or B, crack the styrofoam. Okay, now let's disconnect the wiring harness. Like I said before, this was frozen over, so once you first look at it, you will see a layer of ice at the bottom of the evaporator cools. What I did is I just cut the thermistor off when I first diagnosed it, and it kind of cleaned itself up, but I recommend doing it all at once. As you can see, the thermistor is not there. So here's the thermistor that you will need to replace. I will leave a link in the description below if interested in getting this part. So this thermistor comes with the two wire connectors also. So the next thing you want to do is take a pair of wire cutters and cut the old thermistor off, and then separate the wires. Then you'll just take the thermistor and separate the wires and use the wire cutters to strip the rubber off the wire. Make sure you're very careful to not cut through the whole wire, because if you do, obviously you'll have less wire to work with. What I recommend, and I didn't do this and I should have cut the very tip where the wire is showing off. That way when I trim the rubber off, it will come off way smoother. Because as you can see right now, I'm taking my time, but it's still giving me a hard time. If I would have cut the tips off of this, it would have came right off, as you'll see when I cut the other wires that comes from the wall of the fridge. So once you remove the rubber strip or the rubber off the wire, just turn it clockwise until it's nice and straight, and then just do the other side. Okay, let's strip the two wires that are coming from the wall. As you can see, these two wires, they have no copper sticking out the ends of them. And like I said, if you cut the thermistor the same way, you will be able to cut it a lot easier, or trim it, I would say. but still take your time. Make sure you don't cut through the whole wire. As you can see, it's way easier if you cut the tip of it and make sure it's a clean cut, and then just make sure you have the right size to trim the rubber off the wires. Just turn them clockwise, make sure they're nice and sturdy, and then you'll connect your thermistor to each wire one by one. And when you twist these on, make sure they're nice and even and leveled. So how this works is that the thermistor tells the main control board the temperature of the evaporator, which then controls the fan speed. If the fan speed is off, it will not remove moisture, which will then cause the ice to build up. So here's the two connectors. So I like to use something like flat where I can really squeeze and get behind it and also hold it. One thing you really want to make sure is when you place the wire connector on, make sure the wire is completely all the way in there before you squeeze. You don't want to have no excess wire sticking out. And just give it a nice squeeze, make sure it's nice and secured. Okay, let's connect the next one. It's pretty much the same thing. Make sure the two wires are kind of together, nice and straight. Place it on there with your finger if you want. And then you'll take your flat vice grips, press against and squeeze. Just make sure the wire is inside the wire and connector before you squeeze. And one thing I recommend is putting some type of food safe or silicone, clear silicone inside the wire connector. That way there's no type of moisture that can get in these and mess up the resistance that sends the signal to the main control board. So I recommend putting some type of silicone, clear silicone in there. That way you can keep the moisture out. Okay, so now I'm going to remove the old clip. Just be careful when you remove these clips. You do not want to puncture the evaporator, then all the Freon would come out and you would have to replace the evaporator. So just take your time. And if you do need more slack, they actually give you more slack, so just kind of unwrap it a little bit and I'll give you that little extra slack. When you place this thermistor on, you make sure it's straight across and not moving around. Okay, this is a fan assembly. I did replace it. You don't have to replace it unless your styrofoam is cracked, but if you do allow it to defrost correctly before you yank on it, you shouldn't crack the styrofoam fan housing. But if you do have to replace it, I will leave this part number in the description below. Okay, back to the thermistor. You want to make sure this is in a secure place. You do not want this to be loose. So when you reinstall the new thermistor, make sure it's right over the little, there's like a little ledge or like a little hump in a line there that gives it a nice and secured spot. Or you can just remove the thermistor, not all the way, but just kind of pry down the stainless steel part to make it fit better. Okay, now let's reinstall the cover. So you kind of slide it in a down angle and just take your time. Press the evaporator back because it will slide a little forward. And first thing first, connect the wiring harness that connects to the DC fan. So once connected, you're going to slide this, or actually lift the water filter housing assembly and then slide this cover back into place. Don't force it, just kind of wiggle it until it fits correctly. So it has to line up with the size, and obviously the top has to be nice and sealed because you don't want no air to be coming out the sides. Okay, so now let's reinstall the cover, evaporator cover, and this is what's going to hold everything into place. They have to click the left and the right end, you'll hear it click, and then you'll reinstall the 2 1/4 screws on the top. Okay, so that's pretty much it. You'll just, clean up your mess, reinstall the shelves, plug it in and make sure you have good airflow. Like I said, if you do have this refrigerator and your fresh food is running anywhere between 45-60 degrees, just look at the bottom vent. If this thing has an ice pattern at the bottom, that does mean that your fan is not running at the right RPM due to the bad thermistor. And I do have a diagnostic mode video also. If you'd like to run through that, I will put that at the end of the video if you want to check it out. That can help you go through a thorough diagnostic on this fridge. I hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe for more future tips and videos. Thank you.